Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? Yay! I'm still in the garden, still the same day. I'm going to go and see what I can harvest and bring you along with me. And then we'll go home, go back to the kitchen and talk about a menu plan. I mentioned, I think maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I mentioned briefly talking about the hungry gap and how the hungry gap has been longer this year. So just want to clarify for those who are new to this sort of semi-self-sufficiency lark, what we mean about the hungry gap. Gosh, it's warm. Sorry, I'm feeling a bit clammy. So I think a lot of folk think, as I once did, that the hungry gap, people think of it as being the winter, when there's way less fresh food growing. I mean, we're really fortunate here that I can keep some of the garden going through winter, so carrots, parsnips, chard, and then all those beautiful brassicas, which I really, really love. We can grow through the winter a few things. We do sometimes get down to freezing, we do sometimes get snow, but generally it doesn't last very long, and all of those things that I grow through the winter, they can tolerate a bit of frost, a bit of a chill. I know in some parts of the world there's no way you can garden through the winter unless you've got a heated greenhouse or polytunnel. But yeah, so I think a lot of folk think of the hungry gap as being that time over the winter when there isn't fresh stuff growing. Actually, the hungry gap is more like sort of April, May and June, because by about April, pretty much most of my brassicas have either been eaten or they're starting to go to seed, they're starting to form their flower heads. We can still eat the flower heads, but there comes a point when, yeah, the brassicas are done. And by about sort of April or so, the carrots are done, the parsnips are done. Well, this next April I won't have any carrots, will I? So yeah, as we go into April, the very last of the fresh stuff is finished. At home, in terms of the stored produce, obviously those stores are being depleted every single day. This year, well, I thought I'd had my last squash, but I just found one the other day in the bottom of my wardrobe. Yay! I think I had my last squash in, I think it was towards the end of May, beginning of June. So yeah, we're definitely depleting those stores. Other things like, say, the onions. I had my last onions around about the middle of May, by which time they were threatening to sprout. So this is the other thing with our stored produce. Is some of it going to go off? Hopefully not. Hopefully we've stored it well. And things like onions, if they're threatening to sprout, the best thing to do is, if you've got tons of them left, lucky you, but if you have got a lot left, quickly get them chopped up, put them in the freezer. So by about the middle of May, there are some things which I've run out of completely. Squash, onions. Other stored produce which is hanging on, tomatoes and beans. But we get into this kind of phase where, you know, that's it, tomatoes and beans. You know, it gets a bit boring, for one thing, but also nutritionally it's not very diverse. It's not giving us all those different micronutrients that we get from a sort of a big, good range of veggies. So by the beginning of June, what one would hope is that we're maybe getting the first new leaves from the garden. So our first salad leaves or chard or spinach, that sort of thing. So we're getting some leaf again. And that's kind of it. But as we get towards the end of June, into the beginning of July, we should hopefully be having our first beans. Let's think about this, what we would normally expect. Oh, all sorts. I think a friend is coming to visit. Bear with me a second. Oh, that was so lovely. Just to see another human soul again. It's been a long time. That was one of my plot neighbours who actually lives nearby. She'd just come out. She's not too well herself either. She was just having a wander around my plot, loving all the flowers. She was just stood there with my lavender and the lilies, just enjoying it. I love that. I love that about gardening communally is, firstly, the friendship, the companionship, seeing other human beings, wonderful. But I love that people come to my garden. She didn't realise I was here. She hadn't seen that I was in the shed. But, you know, people come to my garden to have a little look at things and enjoy them. One day, when I move to my ground floor flat, you know, hopefully I'll have a bit of garden space, preferably at the back, for privacy. But even if I end up with the front garden, sometimes it's like the top flat gets the back and the bottom flat gets the front. Having a front garden is also really lovely because you get to know your neighbours that way. It happened to me on the previous road I lived in this area. I had the back garden. My upstairs neighbour had the front garden, but she was really, really poorly. So I said, would you mind if I do the front garden? She said, no, please, that'd be great. I mean, she hadn't been able to tend it for 2 or 3 years. But it was great because I'd just moved to the area, didn't know a soul. I was gradually making friends from going to the park and walking my dog. But I made so many friends, and they were my neighbours, by being out in the front garden, gardening away. My dog would lie on the pavement, you know, out of it. Such a lazy girl. Anyway, I digress massively. I'm just so excited to be back to the garden. So, hungry gap, that's what I'm supposed to be talking about. So yeah, just to wrap up quickly, let's get out there and do some harvesting. Generally speaking, by the beginning of June, we'd expect to be getting some of our first fresh food again. However, 2 things affected that this year. One, I was late getting the garden in. I reckon it was about 3 weeks in the end that I was late. Some things were about 1 week, but I think most of it was about 3 weeks. But also, and this affected everybody, not just me, we had a cold, wet May. So things that had been, seeds that had been sown or plants that had been put out, they just didn't do anything. And I think that set us back by a month easily. So throughout June, we'd expect to be having our first little harvests. We weren't even getting them in July, beginning of July. But now, at the beginning of August, there is some stuff to harvest. So let's go and do that now without further ado. Oh, I'm so excited. Come on. Right, I'm going to start with the spuds. You can probably see the foliage has died right back. That's absolutely fine. This is my new potatoes, Charlotte. These will get eaten pretty quickly. Behind, I've got my main crop, my Caras. Just mentioning it because with this foliage dying back, what will happen because of that is the skins will start to toughen up, they'll start to cure, which makes them much better for storing. So with my main crop potatoes, I generally want to harvest after the foliage has died back, give the skins a chance to cure in the ground. I wouldn't normally bother waiting for that with the new potatoes, but oh, hello. Now, like I said, this is Charlotte. I normally grow, that one's had a bit of light exposure, so it's gone green. Don't want that. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Let me put that there. So can you see that there? Yeah, not quite. I don't think I've grown Charlotte for 7 or 8 years. I've grown this one called Anya, which is a sort of a fingerling, which I love. I just wasn't able to get hold of seed potatoes for it this year. Well, not organic ones anyway. I forgot to do my pirate for treasure. Now, that's from that one plant. I think I'll have another. I think I'll have one more out because, accidentally pulled that nasturtium right out, never mind. I'm looking for my next plant. Yeah, I'll have another one out because I don't know when I'm next going to be back to the garden. I'm still feeling a little bit tired from stuff. Oh, lovely. It's one of the joys of gardening for me, is digging up my spuds. Actually, let's pop them all in the basket so I don't lose any of them. Hang on a tick. Whoopla. I mean, you know, not only do homegrown spuds taste far superior to anything you'll buy in the shops ever, you'll never get fresher than from your own garden. Obviously, you know, some of these will be eaten this afternoon, this evening, but it's just that childish joy of digging for me dinner, digging my treasure out. Okay, that will do, I think, for a few days. Opla, let me show you. Yeah, that's a nice little haul. Yum, yum, yum. So that's a couple of plants. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. I've got 12 more plants. So I've got that times 6 again, hopefully. Okay, what's next? Oh, let's turn around just behind you. Courgettes. So just behind, we've got the Mammoth Courgettes. Oh, it'll just twist off. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? But have no fear. I know a lovely thing to do with... Oh my goodness. Oh, I thought that was big. Hang on a sec. Look at the... Oh my goodness. Oh, you're coming out. I mean, for goodness sakes, look at the size of it. But, like I said, have no fear. I've got a great recipe for using giant courgettes. Just while I was in there, I spotted a squash, which has come all the way. Oh, well, we'll have a look at that when it's time for the tour. Right, what's next? Oh, yeah, definitely time for some leaves. This is my chard, and what I like to do is just pluck these from a few different plants. I don't think you heard that. Hoopla. Want more red? I love the red. That will do me. Oh, just bent it. But again, lovely handful of chard. Oh, and behind you I'm just going to quickly grab those little tomatoes because they're just next to you there. Can't have salad without a red onion, can I? Oh, actually I think let's have 2 or 3 away. Lovely, absolutely gorgeous. And I think, actually, bearing in mind what I'm going to cook, I'm going to grab 3 whites as well. Yeah, because I'm going to be making some soups and other bits and bobs, so they will be great for that. I think, what else? Oh yeah, the cucumbers. Let's go and rescue some cucumbers. It's hard to know how to get in here at the moment. I do need to do a little bit of tying and training, I think. Oh my goodness, now that I'm down here I can see loads. Oh my goody goodness. Oh, and one more. Definitely more cucumbers than tomatoes at the moment. But like I said, hopefully those direct sown ones that are going to come later will produce. But that will do for now. Couple for salads. Well, 1.5 for salads and 1.5 for smoothies, I think. Good. Right, let's go and pack this all up and get it home. Phew. That was a bit of a sweaty run home. So here I am now, back home in the kitchen with some of the freshly harvested produce from this morning. Plus, oh, let me just put you down. Plus, obviously, there's a bit of stored produce. That's the lovely little squash I found in the back of the wardrobe, the last one. So, what have we got here? Let's just quickly go through, then I need to sit down, talk you through the menu plan. So we've got chickpeas, borlotti beans, dried helder, loads still left of, this is Trail of Tears, the lazy gardener's bean of choice. Then I've got 3 white onions, 3 red onions, a tiny, you can't even see them, can you, little handful of the orange cherry toms. There's another handful down there. Oh, the beautiful chard, it's gorgeous coloured stalks and their leafage. 3 massive courgettes. What else have we got? A load of spuds. You can't quite see them all there, can you? Look, there's all my spuds. Oh, there's a cuke, 2 more cukes. Plus, from the freezer, I have got tomatoes, peppers, the last of the peppers, and an absolute mass of broad beans from this year. The harvest I did about 6, 7, 8 weeks ago. So all of this grub that we can see here today, this is going to do me for meals, plus what's in the freezer. This is going to do me for meals for, I reckon, with a few, what am I going to add? I'm going to use also a bit of rice, and I'm going to buy a little bit of feta cheese. But otherwise, all of this is going to do me, I think, for about 2 weeks. So, let me sit down. I really need to sit down, and I'll talk you through what I'm planning to cook with this gorgeous lot of beautiful fresh goodies. Oh, the colours, aren't the colours utterly magnificent? That's what we want. We want to eat. We want to eat an absolute rainbow of colours. Reds, purples, oranges, all the shades of green, a little bit of yellow, and some beige, and orange in the squash. Okay, meal plan. Okay then, so what am I going to cook with this little lot? Just to say, I'm not going to be cooking now with you, partly, oh excuse me, I still feel a bit itchy, partly because, to be honest, I'm really tired, and I just don't want to talk while I cook. I just want to get some food made and eaten, but also because I think I made a list of my menu plan. I think pretty much everything I'm going to do is in my in the kitchen playlist, which is, think of it as almost like a little recipe folder. Yeah, I think it all is. The other thing I'm going to do today, spinning around a bit wonky, I'm going to be using dried beans for all of these recipes, because normally I try to use up the freezer beans first in case the freezer breaks, but I'm getting low on them. But the other thing is, because at the moment I'm spending quite a lot of time at home still, it's the perfect time to use dried beans in terms of overnight soak, cook them in the morning, or soak them all throughout the day and then cook them in the evening. I like having my I like having probably the majority of my beans in the freezer, frozen demi-sec, purely because they're much more convenient, quicker to cook that way. Quite often I don't know what I fancy to eat, and cooking beans from the freezer, you know, we're talking like 20 minutes, whereas cooking from dry is all that soaking and then the boil may be an hour, maybe 2 hours. So yeah, the ones in the freezer, they are great for the days when I'm kind of feeling tired and not up to cooking, or if I've just had a really busy day, never mind being tired, I'm just busy all day, have not got time to be faffing and fannying around in the kitchen. However, at the moment I have got time to be faffing and fannying in the kitchen. It's, yeah, this kind of quarantine for the parks, frustrating, but you know, I've managed to do quite a lot of other stuff. I've been washing and pressing linens till I feel like they're coming out of my ears. I actually dreamed last night about some of the linens I've been washing and pressing for my shop, so it's been a great opportunity to stock up the shop a bit. Right, but on with the food. So the courgettes I was mentioning, that one's not too bad. Is a whopper. I mean, they all are all quite whoppers. When they get to this size, they can get a bit fibrous and a bit tough. They've still got that lovely flavour, but they can get a bit fibrous for eating just solo as it is as a veggie. But one of my absolute favourite things to make with them, and what I'll do for all of these, look, everything's in the playlist, but I'll try and do one of those a drop-down card with the different recipe videos in them, so you can see for yourself. An absolute bog standard stalwart for me will be courgette and potato soup with one of the white onions. So quick and easy to make. It's a really gentle but lovely taste. If you're feeling really luxurious and you've got a bit in the fridge, you can add a bit of cheese to it. If you're vegan, don't, obviously, or add one of your vegan cheeses. Whether you add cheese or not, it's lovely. It's so quick and easy to make. I'm going to make loads with this. And the other really great thing about it is it freezes. It freezes really well. So what I'll do is I'll get out my biggest possible pan, make an absolute vat of the stuff. I'll keep 3 or 4 portions in the fridge. They will do for lunches, or sometimes they'll do for supper if I have it with something else, if I have it with a bread roll, for example. Plenty, but I'll have a load for the freezer. And then when we go into the winter and there's less fresh stuff around, or even into next spring as we start to move into the hungry gap, I'll have tons of portions of this in the freezer. I know it doesn't sound much, courgette and potato, trust me, it's really lovely, and it's an absolute stalwart for me for the freezer for the winter. Because let's face it, especially on a day like today when it's quite warm and muggy, the last thing we want to think about eating is soup. So, spud and courgette soup, then with a load of the other spuds, plus broad beans from the freezer, plus a freshly picked red onion. Don't you love the beauty of a red onion? I mean, that's like a precious jewel, isn't it? I'm sure I've said this before, but seriously, I would wear that in my tiara. If I ever got married and had a wedding tiara, it'd be full of red onions because they're so gorgeous. So yes, potatoes, broad beans, red onion, really simple salad, really good and tasty. Again, I'll make enough salad probably for 3 lunches, and it's actually really filling. That's why I'm saying I reckon I'm going to make enough out of all of this. And what did I say I've got from the freezer? Imagine all of this plus tomatoes, peppers and broad beans. There's easy enough here for me to eat for 2 weeks, plus putting some things in the freezer. Cucumbers, well, it's crying out for my absolute, cucumber, red onion, I've only picked up 2 of them, tomatoes, plus a little bit of feta cheese, and I may treat myself to a jar of olives. Courgette Greek salad. Oh, it's one of my absolute favourites. And again, oh, actually no, because I've hardly got any tomatoes. It will probably make 2 portions. So far, I'm not even going to do the maths. I've got a ton of food here to eat. So we've got Courgette. What's next to make? And because I'm going to be doing the beans, I'll do some chickpeas as well at the same time because they're dry. I'll do excess that I need. So then I'll do a rice and bean chickpea salad. Again, one of the red onions will go into that. You know what I forgot to get today? I might hold off doing the rice and bean salad because the others will keep me going. Next time I'm down there is to get the leeks. So I'll do a rice and bean and leek salad. Oh, starting to salivate. So yeah, because I'm going to be doing the beans for, what am I having the beans in? We haven't even come to the beans yet. I'm going to be having the beans in 2 other dishes I'm going to make. So I'll do a little bit extra and then I can have rice, bean and leek salad. Fantastic. I need to stock up on a few things. I've got plenty of rice, that's fine. I don't have any brown rice though. I've only got wild rice, which I love. You see, it's just over there. So I think I'm going to stock up on a bit of brown rice and porridge oats, rolled oats. I've used up all my oats in my bathtub over the last 10 days or so. The reason I want oats is for a smoothie. I hate mornings, you know that by now. I hate having breakfast, you know that by now. But I will sometimes have a really late breakfast at sort of say 11 o'clock. So I'll have already been up for hours doing stuff. But especially if I'm going to go to the plot, I always do think get something down my throat. So a cucumber. Oh, you know what I forgot to pick? Blueberries. Okay, so next visit, blueberries and leeks. But what I will do is a cucumber, blueberries, some porridge oats, and maybe I'll have a little look, see if there are a couple of little kale leaves ready yet. If not, kale, chard. So porridge oats, blueberries, cucumber, chard, whiz it all up, a great smoothie, which for me is almost lunch. What else? Oh, one of my favourites. Chard, talking of the chard, and beans. I'm not going to use gigantes on this occasion because I've only got a very few left and I want to save them for some more fasolada. But I will make with them, it's a sort of variation on gigantes plaki, which is it's basically Greek beans in a tomato sauce. It's a sort of stew, casserole thing. But I will do my chard, and it's normally chard and gigantes, but this time it will be chard and variety bean casserole, which is lovely. Not straight out of the oven when it's really, really hot. Just let it cool a little bit. But it also works really well cold. So you can always take a portion to the garden the next day, that sort of thing. So that's the chard and beans and chickpeas. I might chop some chickpeas in that too. Oh, and then I'm going to have some happy accident soup because I found this last little squash. It's not massive, it's not really big enough to roast for a whole meal, but combine it with beans and, from the freezer, peppers and tomatoes. Oh, that's really loud, isn't it? Red onion. Yeah, I can make at least 4 portions of happy accident soup. So, I mean, there's masses here, you can see. So that combination of, in terms of stored produce, I rarely run out of tomatoes. I've never run out of tomatoes that I can remember. I'm half wondering about rationing my tomatoes now because I have just heard as I was leaving the garden that 2 plot holders, 1, 2, 3, 4 down from me, and 5 down from me have got blight. I was going to say that the two things I never run out of are tomatoes and beans. Beans were poor last year, so I'm getting down to the last of them. They look like they're going to be better this year. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is a combination of a bit of stored produce from the freezer or the back of the wardrobe, a few of my dried beans and chickpeas, a very quick little pick from the garden today, and I'm going to have some really, really beautiful meals to enjoy. All I need now is a personal assistant to come round here and cook it all. I don't really enjoy the cooking bit. I like the gardening, I like the harvesting, I like the eating, not so much the cooking. So right now today, I think, because I'm feeling a bit raw, I'm going to have some courgette and potato soup. That will do me for today. And then tomorrow I might see if I can get 2 or 3 of the various soups and salads made all in one day, so that they're done. Freezer, fridge, filled. And then in another couple of days get back to the garden to harvest some leeks and blueberries. I need to write that on my pinboard so I don't forget. Oh, and what I didn't check for today while I was down there was the rockencore beans, which are the lovely waxy yellow beans. Excuse me, the bush bean. They're next to the calendula. That's what it was. The calendula distracted me. But if I've got some rockencore, they're the one of only 2 beans I grow to eat the whole pod rather than the bean inside. And it'll be really lovely to experience that kind of crunch and waxiness again. They also go beautifully with potatoes as a salad, like the broad beans. Oh! So anyway, I'm going to shut up now because I don't know how long I've been rambling on. You know, going outside and being warm again has made me itchy again. Well, I hope that has been of interest. I hope so. I'm always getting asked what I eat, how much I harvest from the garden. Oh, that's another video that might be of interest to folk. I haven't weighed any of my produce today. I can't be bothered. Life's too short. I've done it from time to time in the garden. I think I did it in 2013 and again in 2019, where I weigh and measure everything I harvest so that at the end of the year I can see how well the garden has done, compare in terms of prices if I was to buy in the shops. And I did that at the end of 2019, so I'll put a little link card thing in with that video as well, so you can have a nosy at what my produce was worth a couple of years ago. Never mind a couple of years ago, we're here, we're now. I'm really hungry, so I'm going to get on with cooking and hopefully see you all again soon. I didn't, by the way, just to say very quickly, I had said I was going to film the tour today. I think my body is still a little bit tired, so by the time I'd got really excited to just be back there and then chatted to a few people from a distance with my mask on, so I'm not, you know, I did say to them, stand well back, I've had chicken pox, all that excitement, and then the excitement of harvesting, then the of dragging it home and up all the stairs. Oh, imagine a day when I don't have to bring my harvest up all these 60 stairs. Anyway, with all that, it's left me feeling a little bit, so I didn't film the tour. I'll do that in a few days' time. May do a little bit of tidying and sorting before I film it, but if I tidy and sort, I'll bring you along, because I don't want to sort of give a false impression and do a tour in a couple of days and go, ta-da, isn't it perfect? If I've spent 24 hours with a pair of nail scissors cutting my grass. I don't want to make it seem like that's how it was a week ago, because it's not. Well, you've seen it in the last video, it's scruffy. A scruffy, gorgeous jungle. Right, waffling, hungry, need to cook. See you all really soon, I hope. But until then, happy harvesting for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere who are having beautiful harvests. And for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, happy freezer diving. See whatever stored produce you have left. whatever it is, more than anything, happy scoffing. Cheerio.